While Group 935 and Division 9 were performing experiments on the newly discovered element 115, the United States would show up late to the party, just like they did the Second World War. Though the US did discover a deposit of element 115 near their Groom Lake facility in the summer of 1937, they wouldn't actually do anything with their discoveries until the early 1950s. But we're jumping ahead. Let's run it back and explain the history of the Pentagon and Groom Lake in Call of Duty Zombies. As previously mentioned, in 1937, the United States government came across their own deposit of element 115, already behind in the arms race against the Axis forces. They sent in two spies to infiltrate Group 935, Dr. Harvey Yena and Peter McCain. Yena's identity would never be discovered, and he'd play a vital role in Purnell's plans to retrieve the Agarthan device, although he would fail in this endeavor. Meanwhile, Peter McCain was ousted and imprisoned in Group 935's asylum facility, eventually escaping and then perishing at Division 9's Rising Sun facility. As a result of these two failings, the United States never really did make much progress during the Second World War. Not until Dr. Edward Richthofen approached both the United States and the Soviet Union to negotiate a deal, granting both countries a 50-50 split of Group 935's research, scientists, and resources once Dr. Max's was out of the picture. The two countries obviously agreed and did everything Richthofen had instructed, such as the Soviets placing a lunar lander in the now abandoned Kino facility, or the US placing a portrait of Richthofen within the Pentagon, to name two examples. By January of 1946, Max's was believed to be dead, and Group 935 had officially disbanded. Immediately, both the United States and Soviet Union pillaged all of Group 935's facilities, with the two countries coming head-to-head at 935's main base of operations, the Darice facility. Upon the arrival of the now former 935 scientists, George Sawyer writes a report to all Pentagon staff to treat the incoming 40 scientists with respect and like fellow Americans. This integration of ex-935 scientists was part of an operation dubbed Operation Stapler, based on the real-life Operation Paperclip, in which the American government hired Nazi scientists after the end of World War II. One of these former 935 scientists was Dr. Schuster, who specialized in Group 935's teleporter research and is to once again do the same for the United States, now with the added goal of trying to control their undead test subjects, something Dr. Max's had failed to do. However, he did not agree with the States' goal to reach the moon and acquire Richthofen's base of operations, all of them aware of the existence of the Moon Pyramid device. What they weren't aware of is what unfolded within said base. Schuster pleaded to anyone he could, warning them of Samantha's existence and the power she holds, but no one believed him, and nobody cared. A little girl with godlike powers residing on the moon? How silly is that? Of course, one individual did believe him, that being Cornelius Purnell. Forced to go through with his teleporter experiments anyway, attempting to calibrate the devices to reach Griffin Station, Schuster would uncover an interesting note from Dr. Max's that he carved into one of the prototype matter transference devices. Quote, "For M, who started me on this journey." Schuster was perplexed as to who this M could possibly be. There was no one within Group 935 that went by that initial. However, this discovery was not important for Schuster's main objectives, and he kept this revelation to himself. Jumping forward to 1952, the Pentagon succeeds in merging the bioweapon Nova 6 with element 115, creating their own undead specimen referred to as the Nova 6 Crawler. Several other variants of this species were created sometime after, most being under Broken Arrow's guidance. Skipping forward once again to 1959, Schuster develops working teleporter pads that are placed throughout the Pentagon. Though in their original appearance in 5, they teleported you randomly throughout the base, while in their BO4 appearance, they are slightly more controlled. No, this isn't a case of technology improving with time, as Classified takes place a day before 5, but I digress. Through continuous work, Schuster would succeed in establishing a teleporter link between the Pentagon and the Groom Lake site. Although this wasn't a link to Griffin Station, it did show promising results. After this development, it seems the Pentagon made several of their own, such as the creation of the Winter's Howl after reverse engineering Group 935's own weaponry such as the DG-2 and the ray gun. A robotic bus driver named Ted was also developed, although he seemed to have gained an undesirable personality, with the project potentially being scrapped or put on hold as more important projects were ongoing at the time. A large drill device was also in development, expected to be ready by 1964. Cornelius Purnell, so impressed with Schuster, planned to promote Schuster to operate the drill device near their Camp Edward facility when the device was operational. And finally, concepts for their own pyramid device, amazingly named the American Pyramid Device, which was created in 1962. The American Pyramid Device would not be operational until Broken Arrow's founding and after significant progress was made within said base. The American Pyramid Device would not be operational until Broken Arrow's founding and after significant progress was made at Camp Edward. Back at Groom Lake, on his 11th human test run of sending an individual to the moon, Schuster managed to bring back 4 strangers. Well, they appeared to be strangers at first, but Schuster recognized one of these men, and Cornelius, who was on site, recognized another. Dr. Edward Richtofen and Tank Dempsey, alongside Takeo Masaki and Nikolai Belinsky, arrived through the teleporter. Heavily irradiated with element 115 and unconscious, with Richtofen himself just being completely catatonic, a total husk, they were sent away to Hangar 4 to be experimented on. Whilst as prisoners, a rift opened within Hangar 4 and a zombified Richtofen walked out, approaching the cell that contained Ultimus. Pressing his hand against the catatonic Richtofen, the zombie dissolved, and Richtofen spasmed, cackling as he regained control of his original body. The Pentagon was becoming aware of a series of isolated undead outbreaks occurring across time. In 1945, 4 outbreaks were reported, 1 in 1956, and as of now, 1 in 1963. The outbreaks stayed contained in these isolated areas and vanished on their own in time. Cornelius Purnell provided his research to Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, explaining that the threat Schuster spoke of is very much real and present. Finally realizing the grave danger the human race is in, McNamara talks with U.S. President John F. Kennedy about making arrangements with other countries to work together against this existential threat, starting with Cuba. Prior to the meeting, one of the scientists in charge of weaponizing their undead subjects has been consumed by Samantha's manipulation, becoming an unwilling servant. This scientist is Dr. Lehman. He'd proudly show off his achievements of controlling the dead to Dr. Schuster and George Sawyer, although in reality it was Samantha only maintaining an illusion. Several months later, after experiencing a mental breakdown, Dr. Lehman unleashed the zombie subjects across the Pentagon before taking his own life. You'd think this is when one of the zombie maps that take place in the Pentagon would occur, but you'd be mistaken. The outbreak is dealt with and the Pentagon is swiftly cleaned up before the president's important meeting. Of course, though, this is only one of 3 outbreaks to unravel. On November 5th, 1963, arriving from 1956's Shangri-La due to Dempsey's incompetence, Ultimus found themselves in the Pentagon. Meanwhile, at the Ascension Cosmodrome, Dr. Yuri Zavoysky, who has been also under Samantha's control, has been further developing Project Mercury in secret, otherwise known as the Gersh device. He was to be working on their rocket projects instead, but alas, Zavoysky's ambitions lied in the Gersh device. Upon the device's completion, he'd insist that Dr. Anton Gersh witness the device's finished capabilities. In reality, this was an elaborate form of revenge for transferring him onto rocket research. Zavoysky activated the Gersh device, which absorbed Gersh's being and trapped him in the ether, where Samantha would torture him. Cackling to himself before being overridden with guilt, Zavoysky was forced back into submission when Samantha appeared before him and opened a rift, instructing him to follow through. He did as he was ordered, arriving in the Pentagon and unleashing their zombie subjects once again. Eager to assist in Ultimus's downfall, Samantha halts him and sends Dr. Zavoysky a day forward in the future. Back with Ultimus, equipped with the Goldenrod, Focusing Stone, and Casimir mechanism plates, Richtofen really has no intention on staying here when he's so close to achieving his goals with the MPD. Together, they teleport to Groom Lake and finish calibrating the teleporter there so they may travel forward in time to the year 2025, landing on the moon. But they were not the only Ultimus here, if you've been keeping track along with me. Still within Hangar 4, an Ultimus that exists after the events of Moon are seen slacking in their cell, arguing as they do best. Their arguing comes to an end when a blue rift opens in their cell and 4 individuals exit through. Primus and Ultimus officially meet at last. This Primus just freshly arrived from Alcatraz, as to explain why Nikolai is the one taking charge. He claims that together the 8 of them must work together and take part in the Great War. The 8 of them exit through the portal and head to their next destination. The following day, on November 6th of 1963, President John F. Kennedy, alongside Robert McNamara, have a meeting with Cuban Prime Minister Fidel Castro. Oh, and Richard Nixon is here for some reason as well. Kennedy hopes that they can bring the world in unity to face off against this Samantha threat. But as they are discussing their intentions, Dr. Voisky arrives once again and, as he did before, unleashes the undead within the Pentagon. The four face off against Samantha's army of the dead, with Zavoysky stealing their weaponry from time to time, until not only is the threat contained, but Zavoysky is thwarted, captured, and sent away to Broken Arrow's Camp Edward facility to endure interrogation at the hands of Cornelius Purnell. After 3 outbreaks in the Pentagon, the US government stands down to Samantha's wrath. They realize they are no match for her limitless power, and the only thing they can do is hope she shows them all mercy. All projects that could be considered lethal or dangerous towards Samantha are ceased, and the world continues on like normal. Aside from Broken Arrow, who continues to work on unlocking the true potential of the American pyramid device in secret, acting independently now of the American government's interests. A Broken Arrow-focused video will exist at some point in the future, but as of right now, this is everything you need to know on the Pentagon and Groom Lake in the Ether story. Oh, right, I almost forgot. In the Agonia fracture, it is revealed that Kennedy, McNamara, Nixon, and Castro failed to survive against the zombie outbreak, with McNamara being the last one standing, hiding within a janitor's locker before he eventually meets the same fate. Okay, that is everything there is on the Pentagon and Groom Lake. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Oh, wait. One more thing. I bet you didn't know that
There's a McDonald's in the Pentagon.